Chapter 7 Heroes Legion vs. Metamaster. 2 hours later. Battle Falcon Launch Bay. The doors to the Battle Falcon's launch bay opened and in walked Atlanta and Velocity. Both kept walking towards the Falcon. "Are you sure you can drive this thing?" asked a concerned Velocity to Atlanta. "Yeah, but I don't see why we have to hijack this thing." Atlanta rolled her eyes. "I can fly, and you have super speed powers. What do we need this thing for?" "That may be true, but from that experience we just had in the battle zone against that hologram Metamaster, I'd feel more sure about this whole thing by having a mobile, heavily armored tank vehicle backing us up against that loony. I wouldn't say this around anyone, but I've been thinking about what M. Leader said yesterday. We should have talked with the others about this," Atlanta grumbled. "We are supposed to be a team, and teams discuss things. If we worked as a team, we might have been able to beat that hologram." "Nah," Velocity shook his head. "We're doing the right thing. We can't involve the others." He then opened the doors to the Battle Falcon. "If we go in there right now with them, the same thing that happened in the battle zone will happen. For their safety and ours, it's better that it's just us doing these things. And I don't want their blood on my conscience if this doesn't work." "Boo!" Shadow Knight declared from inside the Battle Falcon. Atlanta and Velocity jumped back in shock. Inside the Battle Falcon was the rest of the Heroes Legion looking right out at them. "We knew you guys would try something like this," Raven said with a sly look. "You could get into trouble doing this, stealing the Battle Falcon to go after Metamaster. It's better that we go and find and face him on our own. Don't try to stop us." Velocity explained what they were doing. There was no point in denying. They were caught red-handed. "We're not going to stop you. We're going with you," Shadow Knight replied. "No, you're not," Atlanta said sternly. "Look," Robo Warrior said with his arms on his hips. "Whether you two like it or not, we can't let you go alone against this nut job if he actually is there. We are coming along to make sure you two don't get into too much trouble, since we obviously can't change your mind on going to find him or to go against Metamaster in battle," Silicon pointed out. "And besides, this thing only listens to 2 members on this team, M. Leader and myself. I think we just got sold an offer we can't refuse," Velocity said begrudgingly. "I guess you can tag along," Atlanta said with a heavy sigh. "And it would be preferable to have more than just Velocity as my backup." "Now that's more like it," Silicon grinned. "We just made a team decision instead of individual decision." "Just get this thing running, Silicon, before I change my mind and speed off on my own power," Velocity said with a smirk at the kid's shot. He had to admit, he liked the little squirt of a nerd. He just hoped that he could hold his own in a fight, or else he'd have to lock him up in the Battle Falcon when him and the others got there. For his own safety, of course. Salvage Yard. Red Baron was back in the warehouse again, this time backed by a group of armed barons, walking down toward the back of the room where his supplier was hiding in the shadows. "It's time to cut loose some ends," Red Baron said with a smug grin. Once the Red Baron and his goons had reached the back of the room, the red eyes of Metamaster showed up in the shadows as before. "Did your men do as I had ordered?" asked Metamaster. "Yes, our operation will be underway within the hour. By this time tomorrow, I will have a hold over key business and power areas of the city. The city council will be puppets under my string, or else they'll feel my fiery fury," Red Baron said with a satisfied grin. "No longer will I be a nobody. Now everyone will be aware of the presence and power of the Red Baron." "How cliché," Metamaster said, unimpressed. Red Baron then snapped his fingers, and the barons behind him aimed their guns into the darkness of the corner that Metamaster was hiding in. Metamaster tilted his head in question. You can't be serious. I sent my men down to follow that Walker lady. They told me that they were intercepted in their attempts to abduct the woman by a man or a boy who took 6,000 shots from my men's guns and didn't even draw blood, and then evaporated into thin air when they turned around. Stephanie Walker then vanished as well. That, plus 2 of my splinter gangs in the Upper East Side and the East Bronx, ending up with broken bones and bruises with no memory of who or what did it, and that video report by Stephanie Walker showing some vigilantes attacking my men, it got me thinking about why these people are interfering with my business. And then it hit me. They're looking for these weapons. He motioned behind him to the remaining crates in the warehouse. You, my friend, have brought Sleet agents down upon my head. I've heard of their armored suits and their teleportation devices, and if they're looking for you, then they will find you here, dead. And the dead don't tell tales. All the barons then cocked their guns, ready to fire. Metamaster then began to laugh. Started slowly, and then it erupted into a roar. You insects! Metamaster said with venom in his voice. Your idiocy shows no bounds. You saw your racist superiors in action, and you think it was just Sleet's espionage tech you saw? You think your bullets scare me? You, little man, just killed yourself and your men. Suddenly, Red Baron and his goons dropped their guns and grabbed their heads and screamed in pain. Once your men carry out their orders, the stage will be permanently set for my plan. You've outlived your usefulness, Red Baron. If you had just turned and walked away without threatening to kill me, you would have lived to see the morning. What the hell are you? Demanded Red Baron as blood oozed out of his ears and nose as his brain was being turned to mush inside of his skull by an invisible force. I am evolution incarnate, Metamaster said as he continued with what he was doing with the dying Red Baron and his gang. And I have found humanity the weakest among the strong. He then paused for a moment and looked out into space. And then he grinned. Ah, they're here. Outside, a few yards away from the Salvage Yard's administration building, the Battle Falcon was parked and cloaked, eavesdropping in on the conversation with its onboard ultrasound recording and listening devices. They had just heard Metamaster kill someone, and now he seemed to know they were there outside the building. Okay, Robo-Warrior said warily. I'm officially creeped out. He knows we're here? Atlanta said in shock. Before anyone could say or do anything, the Battle Falcon then lurched and tossed the Heroes Legion around in the cabin before it lifted up into the air for about 10 feet. The right side of the door opened like an invisible child's hand had gotten a hold of the vehicle. It tipped on its right side and shook up and down like the Battle Falcon was a cookie jar. Out fell the Heroes Legion members, right on top of the other, while the Battle Falcon was then lowered onto its side, right beside the taken aback Heroes Legion, who now found they were looking upwards at a floating Metamaster. Damn! He didn't do that in the simulator! Raven groaned at the bottom of the pile with Velocity and Robo-Warrior on top of her, and Shadow Knight and Silicon and Atlanta beside her. The villain floated above their heads, and then said, Greetings, my brothers and sisters. And Silicon, nice to see you again. Silicon gulped in fear for a moment, but swallowed it soon after and scowled at the supervillain who had tortured him during the Las Vegas incident. Grab my hand, Velocity said quickly. What? The other members all said in unison. Grab my hand! Grab each other's hand! Quickly! Velocity repeated again with added urgency. Without protest, the Legion members grabbed each other's hands, and as well as Velocity's. Velocity then gritted his teeth and focused his powers. Gold energy enveloped him, and in an instant it shot down his arms into the other Legion members' arms and bodies. And they all watched as Metamaster's voice and floating came to a stop. A complete stop. Not just Metamaster, but the whole world around them had frozen still in time. Whoa, I feel weird and numb, Silicon said. Feels like pins and needles. What did you do? Asked Atlanta's Velocity. I took us all into hyperspeed, but I can't hold this many people in this speed forever. I did this to give us some time to come up with a plan, Velocity explained. Well, I guess it's safe to say we just found one advantage over this guy for now, Robo Warrior said thankfully. But anyone got any ideas? Getting the hell out of here would probably be the best thing we can do. Ooh, Shadow Knight said. That's funny. I would never have taken you for a coward, Atlanta said with a look of disbelief at the Shadow Knight. It's not cowardice, it's strategy, Shadow Knight glared. He's right. We need a plan of escape if things go sour, Raven admitted. That's not what Shadow Knight protested, but then relented. Alright, fine. If you all insist on pursuing this insanity, I think the best thing to do is to take him by surprise. Do what the ancient Greeks did at Troy. I am not wearing no toga, Velocity said with no humor in his voice. History is lost on the Speed Demon. Shadow Knight shook his head in dismay. I mean, we should fake him out. Make him think we had come to join him in his insane cause, and then jump him, all at once. If we work as a unit this time, we might be too much for him to focus on, as a group. Okay, Atlanta agreed. She actually thought about Shadow Knight's crazy plan. Just by work. I nominate Velocity to go up there. Talk to Metamaster and be the Trojan horse of the plan. What? Asked Velocity in shocked disbelief. You heard me, Speed Boy. Go up there and talk it over. Distract him. Atlanta motioned with a smirk. Put that charming, smooth-talking mouth of yours to good use. Hardy har har. Velocity said sarcastically. You are such a riot. With that, Velocity dropped them all out of hyperspeed into normal speed. Well, well, Metamaster said impressed. I don't know what you just did, but I am glad you are fellow metahumans and not human vigilantes in a sleet vehicle. Although I must say I am unsure about the man in iron being a fellow metahuman. You're a hard man to find, Metamaster, Shadow Knight said, faking to be glad to see him. Ah, so you know my name, said an impressed Metamaster. We have come to join your cause, Velocity lied. I only want to talk to the one in charge of your little group, Metamaster said courteously. Yeah, that'd be me. I'm the leader of these yahoos you see here, Velocity said with a half-acted grin. Don't bury yourself in the part, Raven said under her breath with a scowl. Come forward, beckoned the supervillain. Swallowing his fear, Velocity walked up to the supervillain, thinking to himself, I hope I know what I'm doing. As he walked closer to where Metamaster was floating around, he felt something go pang in the back of his mind. He thought it was fear playing tricks on his mind for a moment, but then he clutched his head in pain. So tell me, leader, Metamaster grinned deviously, why are you all here, and how did you find me? We're the Heroes Legion. M-Leader found us and trained us to find and stop you, Velocity answered, then clasped his hands around his mouth in shock. What did he just do? The mouths of the Heroes Legion dropped in shock. And if you are here without my estranged son's presence, does this mean you realize now that how foolish my son's determination to protect humans is? No, we came to find and stop you, Velocity said again, and then clasped his hands around his mouth again in shock. What are you doing? Atlanta declared. It's not me, Velocity insisted. Metamaster shook his head in disappointment. I see my son got to all of you. How unfortunate. Coming here without him was a mistake, and trying to dupe me was an even bigger mistake. But throwing your place as masters of this world to protect lowly humans, well, let's see if I can't change your mind. You will join my cause, my metahuman elite, or you will die before you help infect other metahumans and the whole metahuman race with my son's ridiculously misplaced heroism and idealism. Try not to make any more foolish mistakes now. It'd be anticlimactic to be defeated in one move. And with that, Metamaster sent out a shockwave attack that sent the Heroes Legion flying backwards through the air, just like in the Battle Zone simulation. Before they could even get up off their feet, Metamaster shot a red energy bolt out from his right hand and zapped the Legion. The energy he shot them with lifted them up from the ground, and then he tossed them away from the overturned Battle Falcon. They landed on behind a pile of gravel and degrading concrete a few feet away from where Metamaster was floating. He grinned as he heard the muffled "oof" from the Heroes Legion as he dropped them behind the gravel pile. "You were trying to deal with me?" Metamaster asked. "How interestingly amusing. Then come and show me what my son has taught you. I'm waiting." He then shot out another psionic blast of energy through his hands at the pile of gravel and concrete. The blast ripped the middle of the pile apart, and once the dust had cleared, Metamaster found to his surprise that the Heroes Legion was no longer hiding there. He immediately realized that they must have used, or one of them must have used their powers to move them all to a safer location, but he could still sense their presence, so he knew they hadn't turned chicken and left. All he had to do was find out where they were hiding in the salvage yard. "Hide and seek, children?" he asked loudly, hoping his voice would reach the Legion. "Fine. I've got time to kill." Indeed, the Legion had dodged this attack. Velocity had managed to use his super speed power and moved everyone in an instant away from the exploding gravel concrete pile to another pile on the other side of the salvage yard. Even with Velocity's super speed, the Heroes Legion barely managed to take cover behind a nearby scrap metal pile outside of Metamaster's field of view. They all stopped to catch their breath before turning their attention to Velocity. "Velocity, when someone asks you during a Trojan horse-style sneak attack plan if we really are new recruits that are insane claws or not, you are supposed to say, 'Yes!'" Shadow Knight shouted. "It wasn't my fault, man," Velocity said in dismay. He probed my mind or something. Made me say nothing but the truth in that instant." "You know what?" Robo Warrior said. "I believe him. I felt something poking inside my head too when he shot out his hand as well." "Well, the cat's out of the bag now," Raven declared. "Brace yourselves, guys." "There you are," Metamaster declared, and then he flew straight towards the Legion. "Incoming!" Robo Warrior declared. "Arcercanus Thundera!" Raven declared and pointed her index finger up at the cloudy sky above them, and then straight at the fast-approaching Metamaster. The sky came alight as a bolt of white-hot lightning shot down from the sky and struck Metamaster in midair, slamming him into the ground. The Legion covered their eyes to shield themselves from the bright flash, and then covered their ears from the loud thunder that followed after the close lightning strike. When the sound and bright light had subsided, the Legion looked on to their disbelief to see Metamaster standing on one knee on the ground, looking straight at the Legion among scorched pavement. "That was a mistake," he said with a smile. "Is that the best you can do?" "How the hell is he not severely burned? Or dead, for that matter?" Raven asked in disbelief. "Raven, everyone, get behind me," Robo Warrior said, planting his feet. "I'm going to bust his balls with a ball buster." "The ball buster? Are you serious?" "Silicon, did you name that thing too?" Velocity asked, annoyed. "How could I name it? I didn't even build the Robo Warrior suit," Silicon answered. The Heroes Legion then watched from behind their ironclad friend as the glowing reactor on Robo Warrior's chest glowed bright blue and crackled with energy until it formed a blue ball of unknown bluish energy. And this energy ball shot out and flew straight into Metamaster. It exploded in a blast that left the area surrounding Metamaster a hollow crater. But once the smoke had cleared, Metamaster was revealed to be unscathed. "Next," he said almost courteously to the rest of the Heroes Legion behind the shocked Robo Warrior. I guess maybe he has no balls to bust." Just saying, Shadow Knight said with a look of fear on his face underneath the mask, which showed the usual scowl in contrast to his current emotion. Damn! That armor of his must be made out of the same stuff mine is made out of. Titanium? Oh man, Silicon said in dismay. That stuff's tougher than I thought. Robo-Warrior Andrew Griffin cursed to himself inside the armor. That attack had worked on War Reaper, and he was clad in titanium as well. Why didn't it work? Then it hit Andrew. Metamaster Psionic Shield. The shield ability that they had seen in Battlezone. That must have been what protected him from the Ball Buster. Metamaster then sent out his energy ball attack at the Heroes Legion, who dodged it again. Velocity sped them all to another hiding spot, and looked over the scrap mound on the side of the building where he had taken everyone to hide. We can't keep this up forever, Velocity said, worried. Nothing we hit him with is working, and the strain of warping us all around the area to safety is draining my energy reserves. I couldn't even get us off of Manhattan at this point. And this guy also put our ride out of here out of commission, so we're stuck. Did anyone think to bring the communicators, cell phones, anything? Asked Raven. No, Silicon said in dismay. Should have remembered to bring them, huh? M. Leader would have remembered. Shadow Knight banged his head against the wall of the building in frustration. Damn it! Even I didn't remember to go out and get them. But you can just shadow walk us out of here, right? Asked Raven. Yes, I can, Shadow Knight acknowledged. But if I did that, remove us from the equation, what's to stop Metamaster from going on a rampage downtown like he did in the simulation? Well, can't you shadow walk and get M Leader? Pressed Robo-Warrior. Same problem, Shadow Knight said, looking at Robo-Warrior. I'd be leaving you guys alone to face him. I can't take that risk. Well, this was a swell idea, Silicon exclaimed in anger. We should have just stayed at the mansion. It's too late for kicking ourselves in the ass now, kid, Velocity said, trying to calm down the situation somehow. I know this is going to sound ironic coming from me, but now we need to, and I mean really need to work together as a team to get out of this mess. Because just taking them on, one by one, it isn't working. Oh, and I thought that was made clear in the Battlezone simulation, Robo-Warrior said without a hint of irony. So anyone got a plan? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a rat being forced to flee around by a cat, Raven said, exasperated. I agree. He's had several chances to kill us so far, Atlanta wondered, looking over the side of the scrap mound. Why hasn't he managed to get us so far? He's toying with us, Shadow Knight deduced. He must be trying to scare us into renouncing our decision and join his insane cause out of fear. He still sees us as worthy candidates to his elite, whatever that is. Yeah, right, like that's gonna work, Velocity scoffed. I wouldn't join that nutcase even if M Leader never found me before he did. None of us would have joined him, Raven agreed. Now how do we stop him? Any ideas? Shadow Knight thought, and then he made his decision. If I can get behind him, I could do what I did with my shadow gun in the battle zone and possibly take him down for the count. But his advanced senses could sense my shadow form forming behind him, and his shield would be up behind him in seconds. Shadow Knight then looked to Atlanta. Atlanta, Shadow Knight asked, any battle strategies you know that can help us out? You're asking me? Asked the shocked Atlanta. Yes, this is me actually asking for your input. Shadow Knight nodded. We are a team. We need to listen to each other, right? Besides, this is extreme combat. We need a warrior tactician. You're the only one we got, so what do we do? Right, Atlanta nodded in agreement. Still not believing what she was hearing. Shadow Knight was asking her for her help. After everything that happened between them. Maybe he wasn't such a jerk after all. Okay, well, when any one of us rushes him, he counters us, right? But he leaves himself open from behind as he focuses on that one attacking target. He only focuses on one thing, one target, Shadow Knight pointed out, trying to hold back the irony of his statement to Atlanta. So just like in the battle zone, That leaves him open to assault on his blind spot. But one metahuman fighting him won't do the trick. We've seen that. But if we take him on all at once as a unit, and Lana added without a hint of irony, I think you finally got it, Shadow Knight grinned. I guess I just had to listen and put my trust in the team, Atlanta shrugged. But don't make me regret trusting your judgment, Knight. I have an idea that could work, Urk, Silicon chimed in. We need a distraction, and we need him keeping focusing on a target, right? Silicon then transformed into his liquid metal form. As a shapeshifter, I could give him a run for his money. Just long enough for a sneak attack to happen. He can't read my mind while I'm in my metal form. And he won't be focusing on you guys because he'll think you're hiding behind the scrap pile. Trust me, I know he will. Are you sure about this, kid? Velocity asked, concerned. I told you. Silicon looked at Velocity with determination. I have skills besides being a techno-geek. Okay, so Silicon distracts him, we sneak in, and then we rush him as a unit and distract him long enough so he won't see Shadow Knight shooting him from behind. Velocity thought to himself. I love this plan. It's crazy enough to work. All right, gang, Robo Warrior said, placing his hand among the group. Let's do it. One by one, they all placed their hands upon Robo Warrior's hand, and then they declared silently, We are Legion. Told you it would stick, Silicon added. Velocity sighed and smirked. Is there any corny name or phrase you come up with that we won't end up using later? All right, gang, Shadow Knight grinned, his eyes glowing with fiery determination. Let's do this. Manamaster floated over the administration building and eyed the area looking for his quarry, and to his surprise, from on his left side came a tendril of liquid metal that slammed into his side out of nowhere. He was shaken for a second, but then he recognized the attack as belonging to the living metahuman known as Silicon. If you're brave enough for cheap shots now, then why don't you come out where I can see you, Jason? Metamaster called out to the darkness of the abandoned salvage yard. Gladly, Silicon said, leaping out of the shadows of the rooftop's metal ventilation grate, having previously shapeshifted to fit inside of it. Silicon then slammed into Metamaster and quickly coated and encased him in a cocoon made of his own liquid metal body mass. His metallic body then pulsed and surged in several places as the angry prisoner inside struggled to get out, and Silicon struggled to keep his indigestion down long enough for Atlanta to give him the heads up that it was time to let Metamaster go. Hopefully he could hold on long enough till then. Atlanta peeked out from the side of the scrap pile and looked over to the area behind Silicon and grinned. Then she gave Silicon the thumbs-up signal. Silicon didn't resist the escape attempts anymore and was sent flying back from the shockwave inside his liquid metal body, which tore him in two. Thankfully, as a living being made out of liquid metal, in that state it didn't kill him. He landed safely on the ground and began pulling himself back together. Before Metamaster could react again, Atlanta managed to place a well-aimed punch to his head, followed by an electrically charged right hook by RoboWire, then a roundhouse kick by Raven, and then Metamaster growled in annoyance and sent out another shockwave attack, but before Velocity could even manage to place a hit. The four of them fell down beside the still recombining Silicon, and watched in fear as Metamaster focused his psionic shield power solely on the area in front of him. While he charged up another energy attack, this time he was going to torture them all into joining his metahuman elite, or they would be put to death. He didn't care which. He was tired of this. No more childish games. You think physical attacks can hurt me? With my psionic shield, you can't hit me with your useless frontal attacks. Metamaster scoffed, confident he had defeated the Heroes Legion in this contest of wits and powers. But suddenly, he sensed danger coming from somewhere. He couldn't focus on where, because he couldn't focus on the mind of whoever it was giving off the danger signs with his advanced perception senses. There was suddenly a loud bang behind his back, like a gun going off, followed by a bright flash of light, and Metamaster howling in pain before dropping to the ground onto his knees. He wanted to see who had injured him, but the attack had knocked the wind out of him, and had damaged the back of his armor enough that he felt the cold night wind and on his exposed back skin. His durable skin had provided most of the protection from whatever it was he had been shot with, but the pain and the force of the impact was enough to cause the world's first supervillain to fall into the blackness of unconsciousness and lose his first fight with the Heroes Legion. "That's the problem," Shadow Knight said, looking down at the downed supervillain Metamaster. "Your shield goes up to protect you from attacks in the direction you are looking, never from around you. Fitting loss for such a fool to have been so overconfident of his abilities as a god among insects to believe that he didn't have to watch his own back. Well, too bad for his back." Shadow Knight laughed his dark laughter. "So, did we win?" asked Silicon, who had now restructured completely and was now back in his flesh and blood form. "Yeah," Raven said, smiling ecstatically. "I think we did. We did it! Heroes Legion, we are!" Atlantis said, proud of her teammates, and she had no problem admitting that to herself, that they were her teammates. "And we did it together," Raven pointed out. "That's because we're the Heroes Legion. We are one. We are a team now," Silicon said, beaming with satisfaction over their victory. "Like they say, all for one and one for all," Robo Warrior joined in. "We are the Heroes Legion." "Damn straight," Velocity agreed. "I think this calls for a high five." "Uh-oh," Silicon said, looking up in the sky. "What?" Raven asked, concerned. "Here comes the boss," Silicon answered, pointing up to a rapidly approaching object flying high in the night sky. M-Leader slammed down into the pavement beside where the team was standing. He looked very cross for a moment. He was obviously crossed at the others for disobeying his orders to stay out of hero duty until they could learn to work as a team. But before he could even speak about how furious he was at them, he stopped and stared with utter amazement at the downed Metamaster a few feet away from where he was standing. "Oh, my," he said with a mixture of shock and surprise, realizing what had just happened here. "You did it!" He looked back to the Legion. "I can't believe it! You actually managed to damage his armor," M-Leader said, impressed. "And you managed to knock the wind out of it as well." "Well, what can I say? Or we say," Atlanta shrugged. "When we work as a team, we're a force of nature." This was met with approving nods all around. Shadow Knight shook his head, but he was smiling with approval as he did. "Who came up with the strategy?" asked an impressed M-Leader. "It was Atlanta," Shadow Knight said with newfound pride in his fellow teammates. "But we all put a hand in the outcome. I'm starting to think there actually might be a future down the line for us after all." Suddenly, the touching moment of victory was shattered. Metamaster's eyes opened, blazing with fury, and then screaming to the heavens, he sent out a more powerful psionic shockwave attack that leveled the entire salvage yard. M-Leader barely managed to put up his own psionic shield, this one spear-shaped, around himself and the Heroes Legion in order to shield them from the attack. But the attack had felt like a sledgehammer hitting his own brain, and then Leader lost control of the shield. But by the time that happened, the attack was already over. All around the Heroes Legion was the scattered and twisted remains of what used to be the salvage yard. They looked around for Metamaster, ready for another attack, but he didn't show. He had vanished. He was gone, but he wasn't finished with them all yet. They all then heard Metamaster's voice within their heads, speaking to them like how M-Leader spoke to them with his powers. "You fools!" spoke the voice of Metamaster with his telepathy. "I gave you the chance to take the world as your own, and you all threw it away! Well, I will deal with you foolish brats soon enough. Just save it, Manamaster, Atlantis said with conviction. We're a lost cause to your lost cause. You've lost, Father, Leader declared. My Heroes Legion defeated you, and they did it without me. Whatever you're planning with the Demeanor and its cargo, it will fail. Just like you failed here tonight. No matter where you run, I'll find you. You can't run from us. Oh, that's what you think, Manamaster's voice said, dripping with venom. Before your team's arrival here, I had already arranged for a little parting gift for you ignorant brats. And it's heading into the city to do some damage right now. What are you talking about? Asked M-Leader, now deeply concerned. Can't you use your superhuman eyes, children? Don't you see the various caterpillar tread tracks in the soft mud of the ground you stand on? Silicon looked down at the caterpillar treads in the mud, and his jaw dropped as his techno-geek side easily recognized the type of weaponry those particular tread tracks belonged to. They have a tank? Silicon said in disbelief. A Sleet Echelon 4 combo assault tank? You have got to be kidding me, Velocity added. So you can either chase after me, Metamaster's voice echoed around them, or you can go and try and stop this dead fool Red Baron's maniacs from laying waste to the key areas of the city. And you'd better make up your mind, because that tank is crossing the 68th Street Bridge as we speak. So, what are more important, kiddies? Capturing the enemy of your leader, or those worthless human lives in the city? Your actions from here will decide what I do with you from in the future.